In 1940, the Nazi government makes slaves in concentration camps forge millions of pounds. The plan is to smuggle them into Great Britain to flood the banking system and crash the economy, which could help Germany win the war. Once all the fake bills are in suitcases, they're sent out in trains. One night, the women in an important arms factory in Birmingham, England, have to keep working while the city is being bombed by German planes. Today is an employee's birthday, so they sing the happy birthday song to her and even light a candle. Unfortunately, the sweet moment is destroyed when a bomb lands in the factory, instantly blowing it up and killing all the workers. Meanwhile, Tommy lives in isolation. He used to be the leader of the Peaky Blinders, the most powerful gang in England, but now he is alone in the countryside writing his biography. In the morning, his assistant Johnny informs him that their hometown Birmingham has been bombed, but Tommy shows no reaction. Johnny also shares that he bumped into a woman fleeing town and she recognized him from the old days. She asked if he knew what happened to Tommy, calling him the king of all the gypsies. Johnny told her that Tommy withdrew from this world to write. While Tommy is working on his book, he hears the phone ring. When he leaves the table to disconnect it, he notices someone running in his yard. After a moment of tension, he slams the table in frustration. He decides to go for a walk and finds a red scarf on a branch. Later, while he's writing, he reveals that lately he's been haunted by visions of his dead daughter. However, the scarf is real and he can't explain how it got there. Since the presence of the scarf bothers him, he decides to hang it on his brother's grave. In the afternoon, Tommy is visited by his sister, Ada, who tells him what happened to the factory. She wants Tommy to come back and help, but he refuses because he has to deal with his mental ghosts. Ada scolds him, pointing out that he hasn't seen his sons in years. However, Tommy says he was never a true father. A frustrated Ada updates him anyway. His son, Charles, is on the front line in North Africa, and his other son, Duke, is the new leader of the Peaky Blinders. Unfortunately, he's getting the gang in big trouble, and Ada is afraid he'll be hung by the law or lynched by the locals. Tommy insists he's changed since his brother's death, so he can't go back. In Birmingham, firefighters and cops are taking care of the destroyed factory. At that moment, the Peaky Blinders arrive and the cops know they can't do anything to stop them. The gang rips off the front door and starts stealing any weapons that weren't destroyed by the explosion. The owner immediately protests, so Duke informs him that they have permission from the chief inspector of the Birmingham police and gives him some money. Since the owner keeps complaining to the officers, Duke's right-hand Elijah announces that any person who tries to stop them will be identified and their families will be beaten. The factory owner says he isn't scared of them. So Duke proceeds to strike him down. His employees immediately react, so the Peaky Blinders beat them up too, easily winning the fight. Once the civilians have stopped interfering, the gang finishes taking all the weapons they can find. Moments later, Ada returns to Birmingham and picks up her son Carl before heading to the factory. However, the workers immediately call her out for daring to show her face since the Peaky Blinders made everything worse. In a pub, Duke meets a Nazi agent called Beckett, who shows him a sample of his counterfeit money. There are £350 million ready to be introduced into the British economy and he wants to use gangs to do it. If the Peaky Blinders agree to work with him, they'll get a 20% cut, although they have to be ready for the anarchy that will follow. Beckett also says that his superiors wanted him to talk to Tommy. So, a frustrated Duke shoots the window to hit the car outside as he announces he's in charge. When Beckett asks him if he's willing to betray his own country, Duke says yes. So, Beckett tells him he'll have to prove it tonight. The next day, Tommy hears a noise in his house and immediately grabs a gun to investigate. On a table, he finds a note that says, "Follow the open windows." Tommy does so until he finds Co reading his book. He points his gun at her, but a closer look leaves him in shock since she looks a lot like Duke's dead mother, Zelda. Co explains that she's Zelda's twin sister and that she still speaks to her in dreams and seances. She claims Zelda sent her here with a message. The twins are gypsies and Duke is getting involved with evil people who will destroy the gypsy people. If Tommy agrees to come back and stop his son, Co promises to help him find inner peace. Suddenly, Johnny bursts into the room with a gun because he thinks there's an intruder, but Tommy surprises him by saying that Co is their guest. In private, Johnny tells Tommy that Co takes advantage of grieving mothers by claiming to contact the spirits of the sons lost in war. He's worried that she's manipulating Tommy, too, but Tommy ignores him. In the afternoon, Duke checks on his pigs and puts some things away in his stockroom. At that moment, he's approached by Ada, who calls him out for the factory raid and asks about the pigs. Duke claims that a slaughterhouse was hit, so he's temporarily taking care of them. But Ada doesn't believe his story. Then Duke reveals he's been selling medicine, and Ada remembers that the hospital was robbed of its supply. She threatens to report him. However, Duke points out that nobody can stop him. Afterward, Ada goes to see a friend who used to work for Tommy. She tells him what Duke has been doing and that she's thinking of going to the military police. Ada asks him for his testimony and support, but he refuses to help her. Going against Duke will only get them in trouble, and he believes that the only one who can stop him is Tommy. Meanwhile, Tommy goes to his wine cellar and accidentally drops a bottle when he hears a noise. He has a vision of his days in the frontline tunnels during the war, which confirms he suffers from severe PTSD. In his book, he writes that he brought the war to his home to be able to sleep. He needs to smoke. Later, he's startled awake by Ko, who brings him the scarf and asks about his brother. Tommy refuses to talk about it, but Ko keeps pushing, claiming she's actually Zelda using her sister's body. When Tommy doesn't believe her, she says the scarf was left by his daughter and that she spoke to his brother, quoting what Tommy said to the grave as proof. Now he's intrigued and wants to know more, but she'll only share more if he agrees to help Duke. Tommy says he isn't that man anymore, so she offers to help him bring his old self back. Then they start getting naughty while she talks about their old secret spot for dates as more proof that she's Zelda. When they're done, Ko tells Tommy that his brother doesn't blame him for his death, and everyone believes he self-deleted. Tommy tries to shut her up, revealing that the brother stole his car, so Tommy went after him. Overwhelmed by guilt, Tommy admits what happened. The night had been foggy and his brother had smoked too much, so he thought Tommy was the devil. In the struggle, Tommy accidentally killed him. Ko comforts him, saying that Tommy has to let go. He couldn't save his daughter or his brother, but he can still save his son. In the evening, Birmingham is bombed again. People rush to the shelters, and Ada takes the chance to talk to all the locals at the same time. She wants to stop Duke, but she'll need their testimonies to go to the military police. Meanwhile, Duke meets with Beckett and Virgil, the deputy head of the British Fascist League. Virgil will help distribute the fake money across the country, so he wants to discuss the details. Duke shares his plan to use 3 canal boats to collect the cash, which impresses Virgil. Then, Beckett reveals he's received intel that marks Virgil as a traitor and therefore can't be trusted. Duke immediately shoots Virgil, who tries to crawl away while slowly bleeding out. Duke shoots him a second time to kill him, but Beckett orders him to use all his bullets on him. Afterward, Duke is left in a very anxious state, so Beckett assures him that he works with extremely important people and Duke will be protected. Soon, Duke will have to take the boats to Liverpool and collect the money. But for now, Duke must get rid of the body. After Beckett leaves, Duke smashes a bottle in frustration. Then, he feeds the body to the pigs. In Liverpool, the ships with the suitcases full of money finally arrive. The next morning, Tommy finds himself alone in bed with the scarf. After putting it back on his brother's grave, he finally decides to act. He puts on his old clothes and gets his car, announcing he's going to Birmingham. A very worried Johnny thinks this is crazy and volunteers to go with him. In the meantime, Duke wakes up after spending the night with a woman. He realizes he still has Virgil's clothes, so he burns them. At that moment, he's approached by Beckett, who tells him what Ada did in the shelter. He wants Duke to kill her before she goes to the military police. Beckett also says he's ashamed of his son, but he'd be very proud of Duke if he was his child. Afterward, Duke follows Ada and Carl around town and hides in a phone booth where he can pull off the perfect shot. However, his feelings for his family don't allow him to do it, so he smashes the phone in fury. He continues to follow her and notices a car stopping near her. When Beckett comes out, Duke yells to warn her. Unfortunately, it's too late. Beckett shoots her a few times to kill her and steals the bag with the testimonies. Before leaving, he tells Duke that he didn't make him proud. Carl has a breakdown and Duke can only stare, feeling helpless. On the road, Tommy stops the car and comes out to stare at Ada's ghost, which makes him realize she's dead. Minutes later, he arrives at the crime scene, and a cop tells him that Duke was involved in Ada's death. Tommy sends Johnny to the mortuary to guard Ada's body while he takes care of the rest. At the pub, Tommy stops the music before asking for Duke. The locals immediately insult him and confront him for his attitude. When things are about to escalate, Elijah realizes that this is Tommy and informs the crowd. Everyone backs off except a soldier who doesn't recognize the name and points his gun at him. Tommy responds by putting a grenade inside his shirt. So, the guy runs out of the pub in panic and blows up. Then, Tommy picks up the soldier's gun and shoots the record player, forcing Elijah to take him to his son. In the stockroom, Duke packs a few things and tries to leave. However, Tommy finds him and throws him in the mud. He also takes the medicine bags and starts throwing them at Duke while scolding him for crossing all the lines. After Tommy kicks him, Duke explains that he wasn't able to kill Ada because he's still loyal to his family. However, he sins often because sin is the only thing his father left him. He angrily tackles Tommy and they start fighting in the mud. Tommy easily overpowers him and forces Duke to tell him about Beckett and the plan. Afterward, Tommy goes to the mortuary and takes Johnny's gun before sending him away. He then talks to Ada's body, saying he should have come sooner when she asked. He also admits that he killed their brother and it wasn't an accident because he had been drunk and full of rage. Tommy explains he killed his brother to be free of him. But after so many family deaths, he swears something good will come from all the bad. When he leaves the mortuary, he's in tears. As soon as he steps outside, Tommy finds Beckett and they start shooting each other. The horses protest in fear while the guys run from spot to spot trying to stay hidden. Beckett tries to convince Tommy that Hitler is right about cleaning society of the bad blood and thinks that ending the war with banknotes is better than bombs. When Beckett wastes his last bullets, he pushes the horses to use them as cover and runs while they block the alley. Tommy then gets on a horse and rides through the streets where the locals welcome him back like a king. In the pub, Duke is drowning his guilt in alcohol. Ko visits him and explains that Zelda's spirit once told her that Tommy and Duke would one day work together, so this is Duke's chance to do what is right. She also gives him a bullet and tells him that after they take care of the Nazis, Duke must kill Tommy. Ko promised him mental peace, and this is the only way to achieve it. If Tommy dies, Duke can become the new Gypsy King, which is what his mother always wanted. When Ko leaves the pub, she bumps into Tommy and tells him Duke will help him. But Tommy says that first he needs a gypsy card. Inside, Duke flips a coin to come to terms with his decision. Tommy comes in and pours a drink for both of them while Duke agrees to help him kill Beckett. Moments later, family and friends gather for Ada's funeral. The body is put inside a gypsy cart with a few photographs, and Tommy sets it on fire, watching the flames as he deals with his grief. That night, Duke calls Beckett to warn him that Tommy will go after him. However, Duke still wants to help, so Beckett agrees to pay him $70 million for finishing the plan. Meanwhile, Tommy is watching the ashes that used to be the cart. At that moment, he's visited by dockyard boss Stagg, who gives him all the information about the suspicious warehouse and boats on the dock. When Duke arrives, Tommy introduces him to Stagg and announces he's decided to trust his son. Then the men make a plan using Stagg's intel. Tommy wants to use the Waterloo Tunnel, so Stagg points out that it was sealed off after half of it collapsed. However, Tommy assures him he'll find a way in. On the way to Liverpool, Tommy keeps writing his book and dedicates it to his children. He mentions that Duke should be his natural heir, but tonight's mission is a test that will reveal his true nature. Eventually, Tommy finds the sealed entrance to the Waterloo Tunnel and asks Ko for help. Her cousins immediately use their tools to start cutting down the gate. While they wait, Tommy asks Ko to read his palm. She does so and only mentions things from the past, so he asks about his future. Ko tells him that tonight he'll get the peace he wants. So, Tommy pulls out his gun and admits he knows Ko wants to kill him since she first visited him. He says she's a bad omen and Ko replies that if Tommy doesn't kill Duke, the boy will kill him instead. While Tommy enters the tunnel, Duke talks to Beckett, who asks him about Tommy's plan. Duke tells him the boat's routes and that they'll only have a few guns, so Beckett translates it all for his German soldiers. Soon, German planes are bombing the area, which causes more parts of the tunnel to collapse and trap Tommy. This makes him have PTSD-fueled flashbacks about his time in the trenches and visions about his dead loved ones. But Tommy doesn't give up and digs through the debris until he's free. He keeps running until he finds the stairs. At the dock, German soldiers watch the boats arrive. They immediately open fire at Stagg, who activates a bunch of explosives before jumping into the water. It turns out this was the plan all along. The boat crashes into the dock and blows up, killing all the soldiers with just one explosion. In the warehouse, Beckett realizes Duke tricked him and points his gun at him. Duke explains that his coin told him to disobey his father, but he chose to disobey the coin and do the right thing instead. At that moment, a bomb explodes inside the warehouse. This knocks Beckett down and Duke runs away while Tommy finally gets to come inside. Soon the Peaky Blinders surround the warehouse and get into a gunfight with the remaining Nazi soldiers, killing them all without mercy. Tommy also kills a few men as he sneaks around and bumps into Duke, who wants to know why he took so long. A frustrated Tommy tells him he's only here because his mother asked and sends him away. Then Tommy puts a landmine among the money boxes to blow them up, effectively destroying the Nazis' plan. Seeing all this, Beckett gets in his car and starts driving toward Tommy, who waits for him with his gun out. Beckett shoots him in the stomach twice before Tommy shoots him in the head. The car keeps moving and Tommy opens his arms to wait for the end, but Duke tackles him and the car crashes into the wall instead. As Tommy collapses and the gang surrounds them, Tommy gives Duke a gun and asks him to end it. At first, Duke refuses, but Tommy insists, so Duke pulls the trigger. The Peaky Blinders say goodbye to their boss and Duke cries as Tommy dies reciting a poem. The gang calls Duke the new Gypsy King. So Duke tells them to burn any fake money that may remain. Sometime later, Ko collects Tommy's book and gives it to Duke. The gang gathers around a cart containing Tommy's body, some photographs, and the last fake bills. Duke sets it on fire, and the group stays for hours around the pyre to offer a proper goodbye. Make sure to subscribe our channel Cinema-Fathom and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.